This is New Patreon presentation number 68 in the series I call Unraveling Yeshua's Hard Sayings. This is the saying that is obviously authentic, called "Do not swear an oath." Now, where does this occur? But I tell you, do not swear an oath at all. That occurs in Matthew 5:34 in the Sermon on the Mount. Now, this is one of the antitheses of Matthew's Sermon on the Mount. That is, he says, it's somewhat parallel to Luke's Sermon on the Plain, where he says, "You've heard from old time, blah, 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 but I say unto you, blah, blah, blah." Now, these antitheses are considered by scholars to be pre-Matthean and probably sourced from Q, therefore historical teachings of Yeshua. And I agree. But the saying on oaths is not included in Luke's Sermon on the Plain, suggesting it may not have been in Q and may have just been part of Matthew's special material. However, it does appear in the Epistle of James 5:12. "Above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or with any other oath, but let your yes mean yes and your no mean no, so that you won't fall under judgment." James also transmits other teachings from Sermons on the Mount and Plain, suggesting that these were all considered to be teachings of Yeshua very early after his crucifixion. And there are many other indications that these teachings were authentic. Now, what is the context? Matthew, in the Sermon on the Mount, says, "Again you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform to the Lord what you have sworn. But I say to you, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not take an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil." Now, the Torah commands that swearing an oath by God demands truth and fulfillment. If you swear an oath by God and it's not true, you're in deep trouble. But here Yeshua says that his disciples' word alone should be his bond, without need for swearing an oath. Now, this is reminiscent of the Jewish belief that whatever a holy man or prophet said would be made good by God. And his disciples were called to be holy, and their word should have power. Yeshua also quotes the prophet's words, speaking as God, in Isaiah 66:1, where God says, "Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool." So he says, do not take an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool. The writer of Acts, or Luke Acts, also has Stephen quote these words, "Howbeit the Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands, as said the prophet, Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. What house will ye build me, saith the Lord, or what is the place of my rest? The heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool." So these are words hearkening back to prophetic sayings in the Old Testament and in the Torah. Now, here's how the meaning of this saying, which is probably authentic, was distorted in Christianity. What it meant was a disciple's word alone should be his bond without need for swearing an oath. Now, we have to ask, is swearing wrong in the Old Testament or to Israel? And taking an oath is not a sin. God takes an oath in Genesis 22, Hebrews 6. Paul takes oaths in Romans 1, and 2 Corinthians, Philippians, and Thessalonians, which are authentic epistles of Paul. Jesus responds to being put under oath in Matthew 26. But God warns against breaking that oath or swearing by anything else in Deuteronomy and so on. So it meant a disciple's word alone should be his bond. It was was a higher kind of morality than just that of swearing truthfully under oath. But what it became is a prohibition against taking any kind of legal oath, even to the point of martyrdom and death in the 2nd century. The church fathers said some of these things. In the letters between Pliny the Younger and the Emperor Trajan, Pliny says that Trajan used loyalty oaths to convict captured Christians. Because why? Because they wouldn't take oaths. The Romans tried to persuade Bishop Polycarp to say Caesar is Lord and to offer sacrifice. This is about AD 104, but he informed them that he would not do so. He wouldn't take an oath. And the Christian swears not even when asked for his oath, nor does he ever deny so as to speak falsehood, though he should die by tortures. Clement of Alexandria, about AD 195, says this, is quoted in this. So in medieval and modern Christianity, this becomes a punishable prohibition against what? Foul language. Taking an oath is understood to be foul language. Now, what is this foul language? For which people could be put in the stocks and all sort of thing. Well, it's swearing an oath by God's bones. In England, it became a prohibition against coarse and scatological language in Western piety, like bloody, which means by Our Lady, and so on. These were swearing oaths, but by God and by Our Lady and all these other kinds of things. And that developed eventually into scatological prohibitions against scatological language, it's like shit and so on, which it was not ever intended to be. Now, the medieval and modern uses of swearing an oath, let's look at how Yeshua's teaching against oath swearing became, paradoxically, the actual rationale for swearing an oath in secular society. In pre-Constantinian times, the Christian interpretation was that one should be loyal to Jesus and not to Rome. So one should not swear an oath to Rome. In post-Constantinian times, the Christian interpretation was that the oaths required by Byzantine and later civil law should be sworn in complete sincerity with no dishonesty, which is actually the way the Torah defines oaths. You've got to tell the truth when you make an oath. And oath breaking, therefore, should be punished in post-Constantinian society. Now, medieval oaths of fealty and loyalty and feudal land, etc., were made and were written and were given and taken. Being sworn into office is swearing by the Bible or other Holy Scripture is how medieval and modern uses of swearing an oath are used. Making sworn testimony in court, swearing an affidavit. There are certain religious groups that will not take an oath of loyalty or anything else to the United States because of their misinterpretation of Yeshua's words. So I've tried to set this straight. I don't want to spark controversy against a certain religious denomination or other, but this is what it actually means, and this is how it's used, and this is at least the Torah understanding of how it was used. And Yeshua was really talking about your personal morality. You should be completely truthful at all times, and your yes should mean yes, and your no should mean no, and there should be no prevarication. So please click on the Patreon link in my description just below the video to become a patron, helping to sponsor my new videos on the pre-Christian teachings of Yeshua. Thank you very much.